Okay. Well, unfortunately, the live stream that we started failed utterly due to random technical difficulties. So I've had to recreate. I couldn't just restart the same live stream. YouTube doesn't allow that. You can't stop a live stream, fix technical issues, and restart it. So I've had to completely and utterly restart and set up a new one, which means unfortunately none of you are here for this. So you'll be watching this in retrospect. Um, Dance at medieval events is um, medievalist events has definitely mostly not doesn't have any priority in most organizations unless the organization is a dance organization and then all they do is dance, right? There are medievalist organizations where all they do is medieval and or Renaissance dance. They don't do anything else, and then of course dancing always happens, but there are many medievalist and or other Renaissance living history organizations that do nothing but fighting, and so there is no dancing. Or they might do fighting and they might do arts and crafts, but they don't actually do any of the social aspects of medieval and Renaissance culture, which of course heavily focused on dance. So how do we get that going? As I was saying, one of the issues is age. Age is always going to be an issue, or not always, but it has become an issue. And that is that the organizations, many of them are just the average age is getting older and older. Young people aren't joining them. They're maybe joining smaller organizations, and or they're not even joining any social organizations. A lot of people are now spending a lot of time in virtual worlds, and I fear that's a trend that's going to be increasing. So we have to work with what we have. So if you have an older population and if you want dancing to happen at events, you're going to have to probably be the one to make it happen. I was the one who had to make it happen 27 years ago, living alone in lower, slower rural Delaware with nothing on the internet and no easy access to a university library. I had to figure out about resources to teach myself medieval dance. Yeah, I know, right? That my husband actually said that last night. What, not dancing with the pretty ladies? How boring. My husband actually said, I figured out early on that all the pretty women were out on the dance floor. And like, well, when I was younger, I guess I still feel young. When I started out at the age of 14, I actually noticed a lot of young men who came and fought during the day. And when I asked if they were staying for feast and dancing, they scoffed at me and said, no, they were going to go hit some frat party and pick up chicks there. So, um, so you have to that's a different attitude. Let's focus on the age issue first. So people who have children and or maybe are older, they don't stay up as late as younger people do. And so the first thing is to schedule dance at a time when people are there and have the energy to do it, and primarily that's going to be the afternoon. But if there's fighting happening, you're probably not going to get many people. You're not going to get any fighters, because anyone doing combat or any kind of martial art, because they're going to be out in the list field. And you might not get many people to participate anyway because they want to spectate the combat. So then you have to work with your event steward, the person running the event. Stop swinging tapestry. Goodness, I'm too energetic. You have to work with the person who is running the event to schedule a slot when there isn't fighting happening, to make fighting happen in the late morning, and then leave a clear slot of time in the afternoon for a ball, for instance. That actually has worked really well for me in the past. And especially if you leave enough time for the combatants to clean up a little bit and then join in the dancing. So that's a schedule thing. You can also schedule dancing during a feast. That's a really great time to have dancing. And as a feaster, I love dancing during feast because it means I can make more room for food by dancing and burning energy. So then again, you have to work with an event steward, the person running the event, and or the kitchen and or the steward of the hall, to make sure that the tables are arrayed in such a way that there is room for dancing. So afternoon ball and or during feast dancing, because the reality is that these days not many people stay past feast. And they if they are, then they're focusing on cleaning up and packing up and getting in the car and driving home, if it's a day event. If it's a weekend event, it's a whole different ball of wax. And then marketing comes into play, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Right, so scheduling is important. But all the scheduling in the world isn't going to help if you don't build buy-in for dance. And that is probably the biggest challenge that we have, especially in Western society. In Western society, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, dance has almost disappeared as a standard part of social culture. And by dance, I mean actual coordinated dance that requires instruction and practice and skill, not just this kind of dance, right? So if you that means you're fighting a cultural issue, and you're fighting an attitude of, oh, well, dance is either silly or it's not manly. I've heard from certain men, or I can't dance. I've never learned, so I don't know how. So you really have to build buy-in. And building buy-in comes in by reading your audience. So you have to know your target audience. And the reality is that you might have multiple target audiences. And so you're going to have to learn to market to all of them. So as a dance enthusiast, as a dance leader, one of your biggest challenges is going to be marketing and convincing people that they actually might want to dance and that they'll like to dance. So you have one group of people, in my experience, who they don't want those snooty court dances. They want to do peasant dances. And here's the reality. You can take a snooty court dance, and that's in quotes, a snooty court dance, and you can present it and teach it in a way that it gets a much more peasanty kind of feel. Or you can take that same dance and teach it in a way that it gets a much more elevated courtly feel. And so, you as a dance enthusiast, and if you're watching this, it probably means that you're going to be the one getting dance going at events. You have to learn to lead dance, to teach dances, to package them in multiple ways. And you can actually successfully do this when teaching dance at an event. You can teach the same dance at the same time in two different ways and thereby satisfy maybe multiple needs. So for instance, there's this dance called Petite Rien. It's a dance for three people and it's bouncy. It's got this step called a piva, and it's this fun little passion play between three people. Threesomes rarely work out. And so you can dance this dance in a way that it is really what I call a Humpty Tum dance. And it's very frolicsome and it's very bouncy, and it's there's not necessarily, you don't have to invest a lot of grace or skill to execute it and to have fun with it. Right. And so you can present petit rien. Petit rien means little nothings in French, by the way. You can present it that way. Or you can take the same dance, the exact same dance. And for those, you can say, so for those who like their dances to be a bit more peasanty, here's how you do this section. Here's how you dance this step. For those who prefer their dances to be a bit more elegant and refined, here's how you can dance this step, and here's how you dance this section. And you just make sure that the threesomes are respectively divided up amongst the people who want to dance the Tumpty Tump version and the people who want to dance the more courtly version. Right. Now, if you know that no one in your group or at your event really is interested in refined dancing, then you just don't bother. So you're going to have to learn to read the room and know your audience. And that might come from some trial and error at events of leading various kind of dances. Honestly, leading dance at medievalist events, it's a sociology experiment. I've been engaging in live sociology experiments for 27 years. And so I've learned some stuff. For instance, that some people just want peasant dancing. And that's how you build the buy-in, is you tell them, okay, we're going to learn this dance, this really frolicsome peasant style dance, even though it might not be a peasant dance, but present it as such. If that's what it takes to get people on the floor and up and dancing and get hooked on dancing, then do it. There are some dance masters who would consider me a sellout on that, and that's fine. For me, it's more fun to have more people on the floor dancing and frolicking and creating that atmosphere of medieval revelry than it is to have one lonely little couple on the floor and everyone else ignoring them and not paying attention, right? I want dance engagement, and that's what we're talking about today. So build buy-in, figure out what your audience wants, and present the dances that you know in a way that will engage them. Present the dances as something fun. Present it as a chance to get on the floor and interact and flirt. And if flirting isn't the thing, then maybe to compete against each other on the floor. Some people are very competitive and they really like it when dances are competitive. And so you can present the dance as being something competitive. Okay, so you have to learn what might actually engage your audience. And that includes whether it's a fun fast dance, excuse me, whether to me all dances are fun mostly. Whether it's fast dancing that they want, whether it's slow dancing that they want. And so that brings me to the next topic, which is dance blend. You should have a repertory of about 5 dances that you lead at every event where you lead dance. And so people know when you're there leading dance, it's these 5. I pick 5 because that's usually about the attention span for your average crowd these days and the average physical uh, physical endurance these days. 5 dances. And you should mix them between fast and slow, between different types. So maybe some line/circle dances and some dances, what are called set dances for dances of groups of people. And simple to medium. Again, you should know your audience. If you have a lot of advanced dancers, then you can add some advanced dances into that blend of 5 dances that you don't teach, that you don't lead at the event. And that's great. If you have some dancers who can just some people who are just good at dancing or they like dancing and they know some dances, especially some more advanced, visually interesting ones, then you can use those more advanced dances as framing to draw people onto the floor. So if you start the dancing with just people doing it, if you start dancing, I'm not certain what song loud or quiet. If you could explain what you mean by what song loud or quiet, I'll address that question when I finish this idea. So if you actually start the dancing, whatever the social dancing is, whether it's a ball or just some informal dancing or some feast dancing, whatever. If you kick it off with a dance by experienced dancers who know what they're doing, and you just get out there and you do it, and then you say, okay, this next dance will be for everyone. Come out and join us. It's going to be something fun and simple, and we're going to walk through it, right? That is more likely to get dancing going than if you just kind of start cold with the floor not warmed up. So warm up the dance floor with you, even it's just a dance for 2, just you and your ringer, right? That will be plenty sufficient to warm up the floor. So warm up the floor to start the dancing. And then if you warm up the floor with something interesting and advanced, then make sure that everyone knows that the next thing is not going to be that. And then kick it off with something that will really create energy and engage the dancers. And we'll talk about my recommended 5 dances in a moment. And then what you want in your order of dance is you want to alternate between fast and slow to give people a chance to recover. And you want to then maybe between these 5 dances, intersperse maybe by after dance 2 of the dances you're leading for people, then put another performance dance. That'll give people a chance to rest. And I recommend putting any performance dancing after a fast dance that has tired people out. Okay. So then after your interspersed performance dance, go to something else that's really going to get lots of people on the floor. Um, no, I'm sorry, I don't know that song, and I'm not certain that's relevant to medieval dance. Can I sing Grizzly Bear Sleeping in the Cave? I definitely can't. So let's talk about the 5 dances I recommend. And it doesn't necessarily have to be these 5, but it should be like these 5. So the first dance I recommend that you add to your repertoire is Petite Rien. It is a dance for 3 people. And I actually realized I don't think I have a dance video on that. So maybe this month's dance tutorial video is going to be Petite Rien. It's a fun dance for 3 people. It's very interactive. It's flirty, but it can be presented as flirty. It can be presented as just friends kind of getting snotty with each other. It can be presented as a follow lead or tag sort of dance. So it's got lots of potential. So I recommend Petite Rien. And with Petite Rien, that's one that you can teach as alternately as a peasant-like dance or a more courtly dance. And it's also one where you can teach some modifications, meaning that you can do it in a way that you don't have to focus on footwork and you can just focus on the geography of the dance, especially if people are intimidated by footwork. Right. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So we have Petite Rien. I recommend a fun dance like, oh, sorry, the kitty's back in Washington. I know. I miss the kitty. He's with my father-in-law. I'm in Korea right now. We couldn't bring him. We can't have cats where we are at this moment. I miss my kitty. Sorry. No kitty cameos this time around. I apologize. Anyway, so Petite Rienne, I recommend the Brawl de Chevaux, horse's brawl. Again, this is one it's a very middle class French dance from the 16th century, and you're pretending to be horses, so it can be flirty and or it can just be silly and fun, right? That's always a crowd pleaser. I recommend another dance called Washerwoman's Brawl, which you're imitating being a washerwoman in the 16th century, and it's another fun dance that can just be silly and fun and or flirty, right? You have to read your room, and you have to make sure that people understand they don't have to flirt if they don't want to, right? It's very important. Read the room. This brings us back to being flexible about how you present dances and how you package them. So Petite Rienne, horses brawl, washerwoman's brawl. I recommend an Allemande, which is a processional line dance called Lorraine Allemande. It's relatively simple. It's a processional dance, so it allows people a chance to talk with their partner, but there's very, very little, it's minimal footwork. It's just doubles and turning, and that's it. So simple is good for your five main dances. And then official brawl is another good one to have, but there are different versions of this. This is a dance that was the favorite dance of the mayor of Langres, actually, and he liked it, I'm pretty certain, because it meant he got to grab a woman around the waist and pick her up. Um, and then I really like some of the 15th century English dances as my fifth option. Libens distonis is a really good one, or a dissonance, depending on the one of the three spellings that appear in the original manuscript, or green ginger. Those are really good, fun dances to include in this lineup of dance. So we've got Petite Rienne, we've got Washerwoman's Brawl, we've got Horse's Brawl, we've got Lorraine Allemande, and we've got Libens or Green Ginger. Those are the five dances I really recommend that you have in your repertory, because they involve different speeds and they involve different amounts of interaction, and it's different numbers. So Petite Rienne is for three, Washerwoman's Brawl and Horse's Brawl are for couples, a line of couples, but still for couples. Lorraine Allemande is for a line of couples, and Green Ginger and Libens are for couples. So couples dances allow you a lot of flexibility because you don't have to have sets of, say, 4 or 6 people. The second you start getting into set dancing, it becomes more challenging filling out the numbers, and you often end up with more people left out than if you're just doing threesomes or couple dances. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. Like, I could actually design a whole list of dances by genre that I recommend that you add into your repertory of 5. But 5 is what you want, and you want it to be consistent, because what you want, the goal is to build a base level of knowledge so that these dances become so common that people can just get out on the floor and do them. Eventually, you don't have to do as much teaching, because if you have critical mass of people who know a dance, then it's really easy for 1 or 2 new people to just join in and get dragged along. Whereas if no one knows the dance, then you have to teach it from scratch. Right. So that's the goal of the five dances that you have. Now, if you know that you have people who are willing to engage in longer, you know that your general target audience, wherever you happen to be and go to events regularly, if you know that people have more of an attention span for dance, that they have more energy and endurance for dance, then obviously you can expand your list of 5 to, say, 10. But you have to know your audience. I can't know your specific local conditions, and that can vary. If you have a lot of college students in your group, then you've got younger people who probably have more energy and probably have fewer physical issues. And so you can do more bouncy fast dances, or just more dances in general. Okay. So recommendation, 5 dances alternating in speed and type of dance to get people engaged. And dances that are engaging by their own, that tell a story. Dances that tell stories, the story helps engage people. Petite Rienne, we talk about the dysfunctional threesome. Horses Brawl, you're pretending to be horses in springtime, and horses in springtime are super silly. Washerwoman's Brawl, washerwomen are known for scolding their partners. And, So that's part of the fun of the dance is, pretending to be a washerwoman, beating the lice out of the fabric, and slapping the fabric against the rocks and scolding your partner, right? Lorraine Alman is a lawyer. You can present it as a dance from the Inns of Court that was done at the Inns of Court, which makes it a law school dance. So it's literally a frat dance from the 16th century, even though it's, relatively slow and simple, right? So ways of presenting the dance, how you present a dance is really important. Figure out a fun story about the dance. And when you're presenting the dance, present it in that frame. And that will bring people in. That will engage them. That will make them interested, because yeah, there are lots of people who are just interested in dance and they'll dance no matter what you lead, but there are lots of people who aren't. And so the big thing about getting people to dance is to create an interest in dance, and that's going to be done by storytelling, by making the dance itself engaging and interesting. And here's the reality. If you start by focusing heavily on footwork in a crowd that's not interested in dance or is kind of skeptic about dance, you're probably going to scare them away. So you might want to figure out a way to make the footwork as simple as possible initially, and to offer a simplified version of the footwork for those who maybe aren't comfortable yet and are just want to move to the music, and at the same time offer maybe the more authentic, the more accurate version of the footwork. Yeah, I bet they did look at you funny while practicing continenza at the local pizzeria. They probably thought you had to maybe go relieve yourself in the bathroom. But good for you for practicing continenza. They are good for your calves and ankles and balance. So if you are leading dance at an event, it might help significantly to present first the basic version of the footwork. Say, this is the basic version. This is perfectly acceptable, but if you're more advanced or you want something a little more, then here's the more advanced version. And here's the reality in general. If I'm dancing and my partner is dancing, I can do the super complicated footwork and he can do the basic footwork. And as long as we're covering the same amount of distance, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do the same footwork at the same time as your partner. It's all dancing, mostly in all forms of dance, is about geography. There's some exceptions to that, but it's about geography. Even in modern swing dance and Lindy Hop, I'm doing some jazzy improv stuff and my husband is just doing the basic, and that's fine. As long as we're covering the amount of space that we're expecting each other to cover on the floor, it works. So make your dance engaging by figuring out the story and telling it. Present simplified versions of the footwork and the full accurate version of the footwork for people who actually want it. And then we come to, let's see, we talked about scheduling. I think those are pretty much my primary tips. Figure out a time to schedule it that people will have energy and will have time at an event. Try to create a priority space for it. If you're in a medievalist organization, probably no matter what the medievalist organization is, whether it's the Society for Creative Anachronism, Society for Middle Ages, Empires of Chivalry, some HEMA group, some smaller medievalist household type thing, probably there are some leaders of your organization, some people who have some social capital, shall we say. If you can work with your leaders, the popular kids, and convince them to join in the dancing and convince them to help you build buy-in for dance, you will have a lot more luck at convincing others to dance. So in certain organizations, if you can get your knights to help you build buy-in, to join in the dancing, you will definitely get more people on the floor, especially if you convince them that it's what their squires need to do. And the reality is that dance is fantastic for building dexterity and grace and endurance on the field of battle. And so that might be a way you can get fighters to actually get out there, is by, convincing them, and it's true, that it will improve their fighting if they get out on the floor and also dance. So find your peers, find your leaders in your relative organization, find the popular kids, and talk to them and see if they will work with you to help build buy-in for dance. Because the reality is that in the Middle Ages and Renaissance, social dance was a central component of society, from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high, to the most puissant, powerful knightly knight. to the most violent condottiero. They could all dance and they all did dance. So, we're talking Galeazzo Maria Sforza. He was a super powerful duke and condottiero of the 14th century, and he could dance like none other. And all the chronicles talk about how amazing of a dancer he was, and how ladies would invite him to dance, and how he would respond so graciously to their invitation, right? The Duke of Burgundy, the kings of England, the kings in Spain, because there were different kingdoms in Spain for most of the Middle Ages, right? Everyone danced. It was not a feminine pastime in the least. But that being said, unless there are any questions, I'm going to close our session with this little anecdote from Il Cortegiano, the Courtier, a book about late medieval and early Renaissance manners and comportment expected of a courtier. And in most medievalist organizations, that's what we are. We're all trying to be courtiers, whether we realize it or not. And in Il Cortegiano, Castiglione writes that there was once a great festivity in some random Italian city-state, and it was held in the piazza. And there was a gentleman, a condottiero, sitting on a bench along the sidelines, and he was not dancing. And a lady approached him and invited him to dance. And she said, "Good sir, may I have the honor of this dance?" And he very churlishly refused her invitation. In fact, he said, "Nay, I shall not dance, for I do not dance, for I am a warrior." "Oh," she said, "you're a warrior. Oh my. Well, then we should clean you and oil you and put you in a cupboard, for we have no use of warriors now." So, this little anecdote kind of indicates how the issue of getting people to dance maybe isn't as new as we might believe it is. But also the importance of everyone dancing, including the warriors. So, you have to build buy-in. You have to create a product that people want. You have to present it in a way that they want it. And you have to figure out when to schedule it that people have the time and energy to do it. So, the answer is it's very complex. Take all of these elements and see what you can do. You're going to have to read the room. You're going to have to know your target audiences and present them each with a package that they will want, but that everyone gets out there and dances at the same time. Okay, are there any questions about getting medievalist dancing going? Oh, one more thing. I did forget one more thing. Live music. Live music. Oh, sorry, lots of people fell off. Oh well. Live music. Live music can be the thing that makes or breaks dancing at your event. But the caveat is, as much as I love working with new musicians and cultivating and grooming them to work up to a place where they can play for a live dance, if you have live music and it's combined with people who are skeptical of dance, the live music needs to be good. It needs to be skilled. It needs to be able to stay on rhythm, and it needs to sound good. Because if you have people who are dance skeptical and you combine it with live music that doesn't sound so great, you end up with people who just don't want to dance because the music just didn't allow them to enjoy the dance. So really what you want for live dancing, you want good live music. My sad experiences, and I apologize to all of my musician friends who are out there and still at the developing stage, but my experience is that in general, unless you have a very tolerant audience who's very understanding, and again, you need to read the room, if you have live music that isn't good, it drives people away and makes them not want to come back. So it's better to have good recorded music than live music that isn't up to the task of performing at dance speed and dance tempo. But if you know musicians who are good enough, even just one, who just plays one single instrument, and they play it well, and they can play it at full tempo and accurately, repeatedly every time, then having good live music will be much more likely to engage people and get them on the floor than good recorded music. And if you can get a good dance band that's rehearsed and practiced, getting them playing will definitely get a lot more people out on the floor than recorded music will. Recorded music is kind of dead. It doesn't have any soul, right? Live music, the vibrations get into our blood and they just make us want to do things. It's primordial, it's primeval, it's almost in our DNA. So to wake up that latent, yes, we do like to dance, this thing we've been doing as a species for tens of thousands of years. Live music is good. Live music will really get them out there. For those who've been to Penzik, you know what I'm talking about. When Volgamut plays, even just a simple double brawl, people will dance it for 20 minutes because the music is hot, it's alive, it gets into your blood and just drives you on. So good live music, if you can swing it, if you can figure out how to make good live music happen, that will really be the keystone that brings your whole dance program to life. Okay. Um, that's it. Those are my tips. Schedule at a time that people are available and have the energy to dance. Try to work with the event stewards to prevent conflict with the dance thing that you're doing. You're probably going to have to lead the dance and or teach or do walkthroughs on all of it, which is why I recommend a repertory of 5 dances that you do every time, interspersed with some performance dances to warm up the floor and engage people, and to keep the dancing going when people need a break. So if you have a performance dance scheduled in the middle of your dance session, then people can go and get water and get a break, but there's still dancing happening, so they're not going to wander away. Every time you stop the dancing entirely, people go away and they don't come back. You lose more and more and more as the evening goes on or the dance session goes on. Okay. Present your dance in a way that will engage your audience, and you have to figure out what will engage them. Like I said, figure out whether they want peasant dancing, whether they want courtly dancing, whether they want things that are flirty, whether they want things to be presented as a fun competitive dance game, whatever. Present the dancing in a way that will engage your specific target audience. And then live music, live music, live music, live music, if you can manage it. Good live music. Okay. Therefore, I hope that you have found this session information useful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, because this is going to get published and then it'll just be a video on my channel. If you're interested in this topic, I have a massive amounts of tutorials and performances of medieval and Renaissance dance, so feel free to like, subscribe, etc. Blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, I hope to see you all in one of my classes, because I do teach Renaissance and medieval dance classes. The creativecontessa.com is my website where you can register for them. And let me know if you found this useful, if you've enjoyed it. And otherwise, stay creative and have a great evening, afternoon, morning, whatever time zone or hemisphere you happen to be. Bye, everyone. Let some time for any final comments, I guess. I just saw people leaving comments in the section. Okay, well, seeming to be no further comments. Thank you all. Have a great day.